Welcome, everyone, to a very unique cast. I'm sure many of you have heard about the StarCraft 2 versus Brood War EVO mod. It's been making the rounds on Reddit as well as a lot of content creators, let's be real. So it's probably the first time you're seeing this, and if you did watch Dallas live, and it's really not the first time you're seeing this particular replay, as this was the pre-finals show match that is often played to give the second semifinalist a little bit of time to rest. And they decided to go for a 3v3 with this mod on Whitewater Line. We had the public decide Team Texas and Team World. Team Texas is going to be represented by Kelazur, Harstum, and Scarlet, all playing their usual races of StarCraft 2. And then the opponent, Team World, is going to be Raynor playing Brood War Zerg, Clem playing Brood War Terran, and Creator playing Brood War Protoss. Creator does speak a decent amount of English, really, so they were able to somewhat communicate with each other. The Team Texas literally had to get Texas hats, you know, whatever they're called, with holes cut into them to wear their headset over so they could communicate with each other. It was very funny. Anywho, I figure, you know, I've not done this on my YouTube channel at all, and it's going to be chaotic and kind of stupid, and you might even know who's going to win, but I do think it's a really cool idea. The entire mod, I think one of the reasons we haven't seen it before is not only the mass amount of work that I'm sure is required to do something like this, so big shout out to the guys who made this, but then also there's a lot of expectation that this will never be balanced, I would say. You know, and if you're trying to make something new and fun and exciting, and the first thing you think is, well, is everyone going to play it? Because it's not going to be balanced. Well, then maybe you never make it. Where in this case, they just made it because it could be fun, and it is fun. The balance isn't really there, but they're actually trying their best to tweak things so that it does get to be somewhat balanced. But as it is right now, StarCraft 2, I think, is considered kind of generally stronger. State actually was one of the commentators. He casts some of the mod for that Tasteless tournament that they did. And he is good friends with Scarlet, and they're all good friends with, everyone here, but it ends up being that Team Texas ended up deciding who was StarCraft 2 and who was Brood War, and they did choose StarCraft 2, which is just the better place to be, I think. A big example as to what could be, immediately imbalanced that you can think of is currently, like, ZVZ is really difficult. For instance, StarCraft 2, Banelings exist, and Queens exist. So you have early game defense, and you have early game defense plus offense with the Banelings. So Brood War Zerg does not get the same thing. I've seen some people try and wrap their heads around ways to make it work. For instance, defending as if it was a different matchup, with like Sunkens immediately and stuff like that. It's actually kind of nice because we aren't seeing people just give up because something's imbalanced. We're seeing that creativity and excitement of something new that you would see in a lot of the expansions of StarCraft 2. If you were around for Heart of the Swarm or Legacy of the Void expansions, you'll know that there was basically a tizzy. Because it was just, what is this? What is that? What does that do? What does this do? Is that broken? Is that broken? It's actually very fun. So that's the kind of general gist. We do have some build orders being chosen at this point. Creator going into, it looks to be a Reaver drop, actually. And then we have Raynor just doing some solid expanding. I don't know. Oh, okay. So the Roach Speed graphic is actually the Hydralisk upgrade. And you can go Hydras on Tier 1 on Hatchery Tech and Brood War. Or obviously we have, for instance, the opposite, StarCraft 2. Scarlet is going into, it looks to be actual roaches, legitimate roaches. And those are pretty freaking stable. They don't shoot air, obviously, as the Hydras do for Raynor, but is air currently the problem? We do have Phoenix being built by Harstum. In general, when it comes to team games, Phoenix are an S-tier unit. They're S-tier in mono battles, and they're S-tier in regular team battles, because all their weaknesses are generally protected by your teammates, and then they get all of their strengths. Super mobile, fly in the air, crowd controllers, they don't have to kill something if they just take it out of the battle. That's also really good. And then, yeah, eventually they do end up getting good enough to kill something. 20 Phoenix with +2, it's going to kill a lot of shit. Tanks being built currently from Clem. When you do play Brood War Terran, the most common composition is going to be mech, actually. Whereas in StarCraft 2, the most is bio, right? You basically swap how likely it is in all the matchups. And in Brood War, you could technically mech in every single matchup, but you couldn't bio in every single matchup. It's the opposite in StarCraft 2. He also has to research Siege. which, to be fair, StarCraft 2 used to, and then we decided we were better than that and changed it. I'll try and keep track of all these upgrades and stuff that are coming out, but honestly, some of them are still confusing for me because I haven't played it. Apparently, the Infestation Pit is actually the Queen's Nest, which I thought was a building designed in the campaign, but I guess I'm wrong. Because this is a slightly easier task, you know, if the models are actually in the game. So the Reaver is, the Dragoon is, and some of the upgrades are even in the game that would be in Brood War, but not everything. Queen is an interesting unit to see coming out from Raynor, as I'm not sure what its intention is really going to be, aside from infesting a command center. That's exactly what he's going to do. Oh my god. I mean, it is one of the stupidest, funnest things you can do as a Brood War player. That and maybe like mind control with Dark Archon. So yeah, we're going to get infested Terrans popping out of this command center, and they are really big banelings, basically. Well, we got those Phoenix now in action. They're so mobile. They kill things very quickly that this is going to be constant. I think they killed a Reaver as well as some probes. No, they killed the shuttle. The Reaver did not die. The StarCraft 2 fam just continuing to expand. 2 bases for the Terran, 3 coming up for Harsum's Protoss, and Scarlet is already moving on to an almost offensive 5th base while sticking on that Roach Ravager Infester composition. Infester is just simply a type of unit with spells that don't exist in Brood War, not purely as their spells anyway. A lot of the spells from Brood War to StarCraft 2, I would say, do have a lot of crossover. You know, there's the idea is there, like Blinding Cloud versus Dark Swarm. Similar vein of thoughts, but almost the opposites in what they actually do. There's the infested Terrans. You literally just make them and then you send them to hopefully connect. Hopefully connect with either an army or a building. You almost never see this happen in actual Brood War games, but this is a show match of a mod. No one cares. They're literally what they want. Goliath on the way as well. I assume that is Goliath range upgrade as well as 1/1. We have Harsum as the StarCraft 2 Protoss already moving on to a fleet beacon, which is obviously another reason why Phoenix are good, because they just move right on into the carriers. I don't think I have to explain why the StarCraft 2 team works the way it does. Most StarCraft 2 players have played some teams and know why, but Brood War teams might be a little bit more bizarre, especially when you also consider that they're placed into a StarCraft 2 engine. So the way that all these units actually move isn't quite the same. They've gotten very close, for instance, how the Reaver moves and how the Scarab derps, but it's very difficult to get it exact. So the Scarab will probably derp a lot less, if it does. I did test it on Mineral and it did derp at least once, so it does occasionally, just not all the time. What else we got going on here? Spire, actually, from the Brood War Zerg. We have StarCraft 2 Terran going Bio Tank, and then Roach Ravager Infester with the Phoenix. Everything combining together, actually. And this is just a good old-fashioned, not every team member is here battle. I can tell you who wins those ones. The ones with all the team members are there. Now we're getting a little closer, but it's only the Protoss and the Zerg here. Scarabs, definitely a new thing to take care of, and I think we're seeing some of the effects of Scarabs right there. I guess they still one-shot Roaches. So, you know, never something you really think of, right? But in the typical ZVP battle of Brood War, you'd have Reavers properly countered by just basically good control and good play. But if you're not a Brood War player and you try and go up against Reavers in the campaign, you'll probably know how disgusting they are. And it seems like they are equally as disgusting versus Roaches. Neural Parasite's on the way, another thing that's not really going to be equivalent to StarCraft 1. Although there is the Dark Archon and Mind Control, you rarely ever get that far, and you usually don't get the upgrade. Dark Archons can be used for Maelstrom, for instance. That's the one thing they seem to have actually come into the meta. Otherwise, they were never really built. Double drop heading into the main base. Gonna go after the science facility, perhaps. Clem was trying to get to science missiles, which actually I don't think are that good. I'm trying to think of what they could do. So Irradiate does apparently work as an eraser. You can irradiate in this mod, which is pretty cool. But then if you're going to irradiate, it's usually big ticket items, either like an Ultra, so that it just like you get so many science vessels if you play Brood War and double starport style. You get so many science vessels and you're using them to kill like the filers mostly, and then you kill the ultras. And then if you're still dealing with mutas, maybe you could do that too. But otherwise, I can't think of a reason to get them here. Defense Matrix is sometimes kind of neat. Yeah. But we'll see. Could also be getting it because you do need it for nukes, I believe. You need it for the nuke silo. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I can see more irradiates being used on the ground bio and, you know, ground Zerg and stuff, but I actually don't know if that's going to be that great. You know, we've gotten the pros are pretty good at dodging parasitic bombs, for instance, in the air. And I feel like they'd be pretty good at dodging irradiates, and making sure that just literally there's a roach with irradiate on it. We'll see. If we see. High Templars are coming out now for the Brood War Protoss, and they would be really helpful on the front lines, honestly, because Brood War Storm is something fierce, and they get Kydarian Amulet, so they instantly have a Storm, although they still have to just walk over to this location, and that is currently the problem. The High Templar showing up here without Storm, and without Kydarian Amulet, it looks like, so yeah, not really working out. Loses the base, loses the battle. Meanwhile, we had Harsum's carrier showing up, killing all of the bases. It just seems like the Brood War guys never got a chance to get active in this game. I said there was a Reaver drop on the way, but that actually never really happened. Can't blame them, especially when they saw those Phoenix. Doesn't seem like a very good idea. And then they haven't really gone for any of their own Tier 3 technology, so technically Crater could have also opted to go into... I mean, I don't want to say Corsairs. I have no idea how Corsair Phoenix looks. I'm guessing Corsairs aren't very good against Phoenix, but I have no idea. Just because Phoenix are so much more mobile and they can actually attack a little bit of the ground. But then Disruption... I wonder how good Disruption Web would be. I don't know. Hypothesis for later. The point is, Creator did not go into carriers, which carriers do exist in Brood War, and they actually are pretty good. He did not go for them, so he's trying to defend with Pure Dragoon, which... as you can tell, is not really working. All the pylons being targeted by Harsum at this point. Meanwhile, his partner's going for the attacks. No parries on top of a couple of Brood War tanks is extra spicy. Or just the one, actually. There's the scan, finally. We do have Hydras being actually maybe like kind of better than you would expect. But I don't know if only one Zerg player can withstand 2 and now maybe even 3 opponents. Medivac's still healing up the biological Ravagers of Scarlet. So that's a nice thing while you're waiting to reinforce, right? Mass Goliath comes out though, and Goliath will do all right against the air. No doubt about that. That is the response to Brood War carriers. Is actually double upgraded Goliaths, which I believe they do have double upgrades. I'm not sure that there's enough Goliaths is the problem. The supply is really telling the tale here. Kelzer, Harsum, and Scarlet both almost maxed out with plenty in the bank, whereas Clem, Creator, and Raynor are broke as a joke, and they have no army. The Reavers not making the comeback happen, although they are powerful. They're simply not powerful enough, and that is that. 13-minute game, which the StarCraft 2 team basically dominated, let's be real. Some of that is because maybe more of the balance favors StarCraft 2, and by that I mean I don't think they dominate every matchup, but they are favorable in more matchups, whereas, I don't know, maybe like Brood War Terran is better against StarCraft 2 Protoss. I have no idea. But it does seem like StarCraft 2 has a little bit of that benefit. I mean, the fact that the units are actually made in the engine is no doubt helpful. You have Brood War needing to compensate for how the mining works and the lack of macro mechanics. That changes how their economy works. I mean, it's a tough balancing act from the beginning to the end, from the first worker to the last carrier to get shot down. And so the guys who made this, they have been given a huge task that they were up for, and they are apparently energized to continue improving is also the amazing thing. The community has taken a hold of this in a way that it really has never to a mod, and that could be very intimidating to a lot of people, but they're keeping on churning. They're trying to think of solutions and ways to make it as fun and balanced as possible. But there's always something fun about a totally imbalanced, nonsensical game. So enjoy it while it lasts. And that's it. If there are more StarCraft 2 vs. Brood War EVO mod games to cast, I would happily cast them. Currently, the problem is that there's not the same type of buckets of replays for this mod as there is for the StarCraft 2. in which you can go to content creators and streamers and get the replay packs. You can get the StarCraft 2 tournament replay packs. You can get the KSL replay packs. I mean, it's endless, right? So if anyone has a good game, send it on over, 1v1 team games, whatever. And hopefully we'll get some more, because I do think it's very interesting, and obviously I love talking about Brood War versus StarCraft 2. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later for, at the very least, more pure StarCraft 2 action.
Warning. Philanthropist programs detected in Com Server 04.